Edmonton dressing room by the doctor. We're keeping our fingers crossed. Hope he's all right. Earlier this season, of course, the Eskimos stunned by that very, very serious injury to James Bell. First and 10. Make that first and 20, Edmonton. Donegan to Milson Jones. Jones dropped at the 46-yard line by Anthony Woodson.
Donegan's pass complete to Milson Jones.
Now you take a look at Williams. He looks like he's in a little agony, a little pain there. They want to take him in right now, right before the half, and make sure he gets warmed up and just check out the injury more closely before they bring him out back in the second half. Hopefully it's something that he can return as far as the Edmonton Eskimos are concerned back to that lineup.
Minute 16 remaining to play till halftime. Donegan again dumps it off for Jones, but this time Jones unable to hang on. Good pressure from Stu Laird on Donegan.
Calgary is content now to sort of play a little zone defense, make sure they keep the short pass in front of them and react back up before they get the first down. They dropped back in the last two defenses and played zone where they had 4 or 5 people in the short zone and 3 people in the deeper zone to prevent that ball from going upfield to getting the first down.
Tom Dixon came into the game averaging 45.3 yards per punt, third best in the CFL. I wonder if Calgary will come with everybody on this play. 1:07 till halftime. Low spiral from Dixon that time, taken at the 20. And Balkovic was downfield very quickly to find Darcy Kopp and drop him before he could pick up much more than 1 or 2 yards on the return.
Now you're in the position here. What do you do as a coach? Do you want to try to get more points on the board with 58 seconds? Or do you want to try to run this clock out going in halftime, only 4 points behind with your #1 quarterback out and your #1 running back out? So you have to watch what Calgary's going to try to do here. I think they should try to run that clock out and save some time for them to come in that second half.
I disagree. I'm a gambling sort of guy. We go for it. First and 10 Calgary. Tedford gets the pass away under tremendous pressure, but he fires it way over the head of the intended receiver, Woodruff. 2-8. Applying good pressure that time for the Eskimos on Tedford.
Now they're going to have to come up with a big play and hopefully keep that ball in bounds, because they can eventually give that ball back to Donegan in good field position if they don't come up with a first down here.
Second and 10. Ball at the 24. 54 seconds till halftime. Draw play to Potter. And Potter hit at the 25-yard line by Stuart Hill. And Jackie Parker indicating what he wants the Eskimos to do rather frantically. Unusual to see Jackie that animated.
Well, they wanted to get the timeout to stop that clock with 49 seconds. If they can get that ball back in field position, then they can move it in and get a chance at another field goal or get some more points on the board, and that's what they want to do. As I talked about earlier 2 plays ago, you have to be careful that you don't want to give them the ball in real good field position so they can score again. And at that time, when they threw the ball on first down and called it incomplete pass, that stopped the clock, and when they came back to try to run it on second down, they called the timeout to stop it, so they have plenty of time to possibly get another score on the board.
Tom Richards into the ball game to return this punt for the Eskimos. You know, we talked about the wide receiving ability of Williams and Stephen Jones. They are also the Eskimos punt returners. So the pressure now on this young man, Tom Richards, a local boy who played his high school and junior football in Edmonton. Also played at the University of Alberta. As we look at that man who had a very successful career coaching Canadian college football with the Acadia Axemen. Some time ago, then moved on to the pro ranks with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers as an assistant coach, then went to BC, and finally wound up as the head coach of the Calgary Stampeders, and has done a super job. Good kick from Harper. Richards going to take this on the dead run. At the 50, found a bit of a hole, gets down to the 45-yard line with 39 seconds remaining to play. So the Edmonton Eskimos will have a chance to run off 3 or 4 plays maybe and add to their total.
But Calgary wants to be real careful here. You don't want to drop back and give Dunnigan too much time where he can throw the ball into his own areas and pick up enough yards for field goal. But at the same time, if you put pressure with the blitz, you take a chance of giving up 6. So they've got to be careful and watch the coaching on the next few plays.
First and 10, Edmonton. Ball at the 45. Pressure, just dumps it off a screen to Milson Jones. Jones, good running. Takes it down to the 32-yard line. Bernie Morrison there to make the tackle for Calgary.
That time Calgary dropped back in the zone, and a good play to throw against that zone is that screen pass, and they hit Milson Jones over there on the screen and was able to pick up enough yards for the first down. Now they're going to their quick offense, calling the play at the line of scrimmage.
Good gain of 13 yards for the Eskimos. First and 10, ball at the 32. Quick pass over the middle, complete to Marco Sinkar. Sinkar stopped at the 20. Larry Hogue in to make the stop.
Well, then again, they line up again, calling what they may call a fire. They call it different things. Different teams will call it as far as what you have to do to line up. And Dunnigan will scream a play to his backs and give the same play to his wide receivers. Call it to one side or the other and get everybody knowing what that same play is and get the play off before too much time runs off that clock.
Dunnigan looking for Kelly. Kelly unable to get his hands on it. Incomplete. The Eskimos and the fans calling for pass interference, but no flags down. 4 seconds remaining on the scoreboard clock here at Commonwealth Stadium.
Well, good coverage. They were coming with the blitz that time, and when you do that, you know you've got man coverage, and you've got to be right there with that man. And that time we were talking about Mel Jenkins. He was right there. He would be with Kelly the whole game, and he was able to come up with a big play for that defensive secondary.
Well, as you might suspect, Jackie Parker is waving Tom Dixon over to the bench. Matt Dunnigan also coming over. Do you kick a field goal with 4 seconds left? Do you try and go for it to increase your point total? Edmonton lead 14-10. 4 seconds showing on the clock, so this should be the final play of the second quarter.
Well, that was the first time today that they've gone to Brian Kelly. As I mentioned before, he's caught 49 passes on the year, but 10 of those passes were for touchdowns. So, you know, if they throw it to him 4 or 5 more times, he may come up with that big play for the TD.
It would appear that Parker is electing to go for the safe 3 points. Tom Dixon is into the ballgame. The Eskimos have been known in the past to provide us with a little bit of razzle-dazzle. Maybe they'll fake it. Who knows? Larry Willis awaiting this field goal attempt from Tom Dixon. He's had a good day. Perfect day, as a matter of fact. This one will come from the 27-yard line. And Tom Dixon remains perfect to put the Edmonton Eskimos on top of the Calgary Stampeders 17-10 as the two teams make their way to the dressing room here at Commonwealth Stadium. A very entertaining first half of play. I'm sure a lot of people feel a close first half. Right now, let's go to CFL Control and Brian Williams. Brian?
All right, thank you, Steve Armitage. Coming up at halftime, we'll have highlights from the game played earlier today. The Argonauts winning by 14 in Hamilton. We'll have a report on yesterday's junior final from Taylor Field in Regina. Then Don Matthews, the head coach of the BC Lions, and Don Whitman will join me live from our studios in Vancouver. Stay with us. The CFL on CBC will continue right after this. It is halftime. The Edmonton Eskimos up by a converted touchdown over Calgary. Earlier today, the 2-game total point Eastern final began at Iverwin Stadium. And a surprisingly easy win for the Toronto Argonauts. Let's have a look at highlights from earlier this afternoon. Harold Ballard's friends were all there. In the first quarter, Mike Kerrigan to Tony Champion. It was 7-0 for the Hamilton Ticats, and the Steeltown fans loved it. Now in the second quarter, J.C. Watts, the former Ottawa Rough Rider, who had a big day for the Argonauts, goes upstairs, 48 yards to Darrell Smith. The game was tied at 10. Still in the second quarter, J.C. Watts can't find the open man, comes a little to the left side, 25-yard touchdown. The Toronto Argonauts surprise in the lead 17-11. A lot of Toronto fans over for this football game. Now, Watts is passing to Keith Baker. The former Ticat, Jim Rockford, is called for pass interference, and that will set up the second running touchdown of the day by J.C. Watts as the Argonauts beat the Ticats 31-17. So the Argonauts with a 14-point lead going into the second game here in Toronto. We'll have it live for you next Sunday afternoon. It's interesting, the last time Toronto and Hamilton hooked up in a two-game total point Eastern Series was in 1971. Joe Theismann and the Argos went on to lose the Grey Cup by a score of 14-11 to the Calgary Stampeders. All right, yesterday the BC Lions beating the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Let's have a look at highlights from that game. Conditions always perfect under the dome. 2 weeks from today, we'll be there for Grey Cup 86. Yesterday, second quarter, DeWalt to Fernandez. The catch is routine. Let me tell you, folks, these moves after the catch are anything but routine. Great running by Mervyn Fernandez. BC up 21-0 at the half. Now, great second half comeback by Winnipeg. They're trailing 21-14. We pick it up, 3rd and goal, less than 2 minutes to play. The ball is stripped away from Sean Kehoe, and that is all she wrote for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Naturally, the BC fans were ecstatic. It was a dejected Winnipeg coach Cal Murphy in the sidelines. His team had come so close, but the season was all over. Sad head coach Cal Murphy. It was a smiling head coach of the BC Lions, Don Matthews. In fact, Don joins us now from our studios in Vancouver, along with Don Whitman, who called the game. You're not smiling today, Coach.
Well, there's still some work to be done, and looks like it's tough work out there in Edmonton.
All right, congratulations. You're in the Western Final for the 4th year in a row. Your impressions of the first half of this football game, the Eskimos up by 7.
Well, it's everything that I hoped it would be, a very hard-hitting, tough football game in the elements, because playing the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 3 times in a row has taken its toll on the BC Lions. And we're a little banged up, and those two guys are banging each other up pretty well right now, and it's going to be another exciting 30 minutes.
Don, it was a physical battle yesterday, as you said, in the game against Winnipeg. If you had your druthers, you'd probably like to see this one this afternoon go into about 3 overtime periods.
I'd love 3 overtimes, and I think the fans would love it also.
Don, let's talk about some of the problems that your club might have as far as injuries go as a result of yesterday's hard-hitting physical game. I think it's as physical a game as your team has played this year.
Well, it's a physical 3-game series with the Blue Bombers, and right now Rick Clausen is a question mark for next week. Jim Mills, our tackle, is banged up a little bit, and the whole team has got some bumps and bruises from 3 weeks of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, but the thrill of the playoffs are going to get everybody that can play ready to play.
Most people would naturally assume that having lost 3 games to Edmonton during regular season play and having split with Calgary, you might have a preference to play Calgary in addition to having home field advantage.
Well, I think the home field advantage is the biggest thing. We'd love to stay home and play another game for our fans in the Dome, but we really can't control that, and we think we're a different football team than the one that got beat up by Edmonton in the middle of the season. Merv Fernandez is back. I think Tony Parker is a new player for us, so I think we're a different football team, and we're on a roll right now, and hopefully we're going to play the next team, whoever it is, with a lot of confidence.
I made a reference yesterday to the fact that Merv Fernandez was hurt in the second game of the season. He really didn't get into gear again until about 3 games back. Would you concur?
Well, you're exactly right. He, he had training camp, and then he didn't play but a game and a half, and then when he missed 9 games in a row, I think it was, it took him a while to get back on track. It took Roy DeWalda a little bit of time to get his timing back with Merv, but they played through it, and we suffered a little bit, but yesterday I thought was a great example of what Merv and Roy DeWalt can do, and they certainly excite our fans and even the coaches a little bit.
Fellas, can I get a reaction from both of you, Don Whitman and Don Matthews, to the game played earlier today? The Argonauts winning, I thought, rather easily.
Well, I'll answer that one first of all. Don was on his way to the studio during the second half of that ball game, but I thought J.C. Watts did an outstanding job, and I was a little surprised that the Toronto defense shut down the Hamilton offense the way they did.
Well, I think Hamilton has been having trouble with their offensive consistency. and Toronto's a good football team, and they're playing for all the marbles in 2 games. I think they understand what's at stake, and I think going to Toronto with a 14-point advantage is going to be tough for Hamilton to overcome.
As long as it's you on November 30th, you don't care who the other team is.
You know, I hope they have just a physical battle like we've been having.
All right, thank you, Don Whitman, and good luck to you, Coach Matthews, next week against either Edmonton or Calgary. Stay with us. We will take a look at yesterday's National Junior Football Final as the CFL on CBC continue. Halftime, Edmonton leading Calgary by 7. We congratulate the powerful Regina Rams, who yesterday won the National Junior Final at Taylor Field over the Ottawa Sooners. And with a report on that football game from Regina, here's Glenn Reed.
It did not get any warmer for Regina fans after the Ottawa Sooners opened the scoring on their first series. Greg Duncan's 15-yard field goal made it 3-0. But Rick Boudreau and the Sooner offense struggled from there on. Boudreau was picked off by Mark Becker, and that would set up the game's first touchdown. Quarterback Dean Picton, the CJFL's Offensive Player of the Year, throws a 5-yard touchdown toss to Rob Bresciani. The Rams in front 7-3, which would only be the beginning. Picton and the Rams toyed with the Sooner defense. Third quarter from the 2, Picton puts it up for Doug Dorsch, who holds on. Regina at this point led 33-6. Following the Sooners' only touchdown, perhaps a few felt maybe it wasn't over yet. But the comeback hopes were quickly destroyed when Picton and Bresciani, former Calgary Stampeder, hook up for a 109-yard touchdown. And the Rams would go on to their 9th Canadian championship.
So the Armandale Cup stays in Saskatchewan. The Regina Rams coming away with a 53-12 victory over the Ottawa Sooners. This is Glenn Reed, CBC Sports in Regina. Now back to Brian Williams at CFL Control.
All right, thank you, Glenn. And again, our congratulations to the Regina Rams, Canadian junior champions. Couple of good university football games in case you missed them yesterday. The Western Ontario Mustangs ranked number 2, winning by a converted touchdown over the Acadia Axemen in the Atlantic Bowl. The surprise of the day, the UBC Thunderbirds, they are number 1, winning by only 2 points over the Bishops Gators. Turnovers killed Bishops. Bishops missing a 2-point convert in the final minute of play, so the Vanier Cup, which will be played here in Toronto next Saturday, as it should be, numbers 1 and 2, the UBC Thunderbirds and the Western Ontario Mustangs. Halftime, and the Calgary Stampeders down by 7. They are without their quarterback, Rick Johnson, though, and right now, let's return you to a very cold Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton. Once again, here's Steve Armitage. Steve?
Thank you, Brian. And you alluded to Rick Johnson's injury. That could be the big story for the Stampeders in the second half. Let's check the story of the CompuStats in that first half of play. Clearly, Edmonton had the edge in all categories. Net offense, 218 yards to 59 for Calgary. Although Calgary had the edge in turnovers, but unfortunately for the Calgary Stampeders and their fans, they were unable to convert those turnovers into key points. But as I mentioned, the fact that Rick Johnson is out of the ballgame, replaced by Jeff Tedford, could be the big story for the Stampeders in the second half. We'll be back with second half action right after this. Back onto the field here at Commonwealth Stadium. The Edmonton Eskimos in front of the Calgary Stampeders 17-10, and it is getting colder, folks.
Well, I didn't think it was possible to get any colder than it has been, but it is getting colder, Steve.
Chuck, what have you got for highlights for us?
Well, I think the Edmonton Eskimos have moved the ball up and down the field, and right now the highlight that I have for them is the one with Rick House catching a pass. Rick, as Matt Dunnigan drops back, his offensive line has given him a lot of protection, and he had time to read and throw the ball upfield to Rick House, who caught the ball and was able to run enough yards to pick up 49 yards on that reception. That was one of the bigger plays as far as an offensive play and moving the ball up the field in the first half. Defensive play on both teams has been good, and that led to the touchdown, the 1-yard run by Matt Dunnigan as he follows his line into the goes to his left side into the end zone for the touchdown.
A very effective play for the Edmonton Eskimos, resulting in 6 points.
And for Calgary, they've been able to come back with Jeff Tedford at quarterback and throw this pass to Emmanuel Talbert for the touchdown to make the score 14-10 and got them right back in the game with points. So right now, Tedford's back into the game, or has been in the game, and doing a good job at quarterback.
You're Bob Vespasiani. What do you say to the Calgary Stampeders at halftime?
Well, you just let them know, hey, guys, you're in the game. We don't have our starting quarterback in the game. We don't have our number 1 running back, and we're still in there. Play hard, do the best job you can, push the ball up the field, and let their defense play good for us.
And there's the man who replaced Rick Johnson, did a fairly good job coming in off the bench. Jeff Tedford with the warm-up jacket on. It is colder here at Commonwealth Stadium. Of course, Derek Donaldson, our veteran production assistant in the booth, keeps telling me that it is not cold by Winnipeg standards, but I keep telling him it is very cold by Vancouver standards. It is minus 13 degrees Celsius officially as we look at the penalties in that first half. And it's interesting to note that in terms of total yardage, Calgary with the least penalized team in the CFL over the course of the regular season.
Where all those penalties that Edmonton got against them was in that big drive that led to that touchdown by Calgary. Unfortunately for them, they did have those penalties and they were able to get a touchdown to keep the game close right now.
J.T. Hay kicking off to get this second half underway. Tom Richards at the 40. Make that Skinner. Skinner forced out of bounds just shy of the 50-yard line. So good field position for Matt Dunnigan and the Eskimos offense as the second half gets underway. 17-10 the score. And we are about to see the Eskimos with the ball for the first time in the third quarter.
Well, look for Matt Dunnigan just to stay with his game plan. Their game plan has not been a bad one. They've been able to take advantage of the backside of the backfield. Matt Dunnigan has done his thing, running out of the backfield and got upfield.
You think it's not cold here at Commonwealth Stadium? Look at those two all bundled up trying to keep warm. First and 10 Edmonton as referee Bud Ulrich runs up to the line of scrimmage, blows the whistle, wants to talk to his officials. Bud Ulrich should be used to the cold. He's from Winnipeg. All those Winnipeg types. You keep warm by shoveling their walk. Don Whitman has the world's longest driveway. It took him 3 days to get out. Quick pass. And it's complete. Hopkins in on the tackle. It was Howlett paid for that pass reception.
Again, that's what they do, is throw that quick pass out to those wide receivers and let them react as they can, as far as they can with the ball after they catch it. That time Hopkins came up very quickly in this frozen turf to make a good tackle.
A gain of 7 yards on the play. Ball at the 55-yard line. Dunnigan, good fake into the line. He's running the option well. And that's something that Matt Dunnigan does as well as any CFL quarterback, and that is run with the ball.
Well, I tell you what, that option play is a good old college play that you used to see, where you run down to the end of the line of scrimmage and you put the linebacker or the corner, whoever's the defensive man on the end of the line of scrimmage at the time, in a bind. Either he decides to go with you and take you, and if he does that, you pitch it back. If he decides to slide out as far as he did in that situation, you cut it up and get as many yards as you can. Matt Dunnigan got the first down.
Rushing for 12 yards, first and 10 Eskimos, the ball at the 42-yard line in Calgary. Dunnigan to a wide open Milson Jones. Jones's forward progress was stopped just shy of the 40-yard line.
Well, good reaction now by the defensive back, Richie Hall. Now, the one thing you're going to have to watch now, Matt Dunnigan will pump to one of his receivers short and get those defensive backs reacting back up and then throw it long, because now they are reacting a little quicker, coming up and trying to stop the short passes.
Pickup of 8 on the play. Second and 8, ball at the 40. Dunnigan breaks free in the pocket. Oh, he is so good at that. And he is so dangerous when he elects to run.
Well, it's difficult for the defensive linebackers and the people now to come up and get Matt Dunnigan, because he does have the ability to run just like a running back. Once he breaks free, he's just like any running back that you would have in the CFL. He has the ability to stop or run through a guy and has the strength to get through. He has a good athletic ability, and once he puts a few fakes on Bernie Morrison, he misses him, and he's able to pick up some more yards and gets the first down.
11 more yards rushing for Matt Dunnigan. There you see, has a total of 76. First and 10, Edmonton, the ball at the 29. Draw play to Skinner. Skinner turning the corner. Skinner down inside the 15-yard line.
Good action. Matt Dunnigan comes out. He runs what looks like he's running a sprint action, like he's rolling out to his right, and gives the ball back to Chris Skinner when he goes around to the left. That brings the action of the defensive secondary and linebackers to the right when Skinner is running back to his left. So good play, good call.
And excellent ball control on the part of Chris Skinner and the Edmonton Eskimos on this drive. First and 10, the ball at the 13. Dunnigan wants to put it up. He's getting some pressure. And he was looking for Kelly. Kelly got one hand on it, but it was about a yard and a half too far in front of him.
Well, Brian Kelly is a guy that he likes to go to in big situations because he can come up with a big play, and Dunnigan just buys more time for himself as a quarterback, and he has that ability to run. It really creates the problems for the defense, because now what do? If you're blitzing, you put yourself in man coverage, and if he breaks through that blitz and gets into that secondary before you get to react on him, he could take it all the way.
Dunnigan has attempted 20 passes now, completed 14, just over 100 yards. And 181 yards passing for the Eskimos. 2nd and 10 now. Dunnigan complete to Rick House, and House is brought down at the 6-yard line.
Well, he didn't pick up enough yards for the first down, and I think they're in a situation where they're going to make a decision of whether they're going to try to go for it or go for the field goal. As you see, Matt Dunnigan just drops back. He takes about a 4-step drop and gets rid of the ball quick.
And the Eskimos are sending in their short yardage offense.
This is really a tough call when you're trying to run for this many yards down there, because, as I mentioned before, the offensive linemen on their blocks cannot get the type of footing on the frozen turf to drive off and make those solid blocks, and that allows the defensive line and the linebackers to penetrate. So it's going to be an interesting play here.
The ball's on the 6. They have to get to the 3. And I'm not sure that they got to the 3-yard line. We'll have to wait and see where they mark it.
It's going to depend on the spot here by the officials.
It's very, very close. Neil Lumsden, the former Edmonton Eskimo, now retired, says no, they did not make it.
We're going to have to see how good Neil's eyes are, whether it's time for glasses.
Well, he didn't need the good eyes. I mean, all he did was take the ball from the quarterback and put his head down and run. And the indication is first down by the nose of the football.
Glasses, Neil. Glasses.
So it's now 1st and goal for the Eskimos. Great effort here. Just a super effort on the part of Johnstone. He knew exactly how far the Eskimos had to go, and he got it by the nose of the football. So 1st and goal from the 3. This time Dunnigan goes over the top. Touchdown!
Well, if you're sitting there in your living room and you're watching this, you take a look at Matt Dunnigan. He jumped just like he was a running back jumping as he received the ball and gets it to the end zone. I mean, he's the only guy I know that can make a quarterback sneak look exciting.
2nd touchdown of the game for Matt Dunnigan. Makes it 23-10 Eskimos, and Tom Dixon is in for the convert. And as usual, it is good. So it's 24-10. The Eskimos leading Calgary with 10 minutes and 21 seconds remaining to play in the 3rd quarter here at Commonwealth Stadium. Matt Dunnigan doing a little bit of celebrating on the Edmonton Eskimos bench, and well, he should. The Eskimos now on top of Calgary 24-10 as he takes a long-distance phone call. You think that's from his mother?
I don't know.
I doubt it. Dixon with a good kick, taking it to 15. This is caught, and he gets up to the 40-yard line where he's met and brought down by Balkovec.
Again, a lot of responsibility heat now comes on that Calgary offense, as Jeff Tepper is still in the game, so we have to assume that Rick Johnson is really hurt and may have a problem with that. So we'll have to see how he's going to handle the rest of the game. Again, we take a look at Matt Dunnigan. He knows that where his offensive linemen are going to be. He just follows the one that he thinks is going to make the big block for him, and he leaps to get into that end zone.
1st and 10 Calgary from the 40. A draw play to Petrus. And Petrus picks up 3, maybe 4 yards on the play. Mandrich in there to make the stop for the Eskimos.
Well, you know, Steve, we talked about earlier that the fact that the field is an advantage for the offense as they know where they're going. But as you get late in the game and you're behind, the defensive line now begins to take the advantage because they know that pretty much you're going to have to rely on that passing game. So they're just going to pin their ears back and come after you.
A passing situation for Calgary. The ball's at the 44. Tedford intending that for Ray Alexander. And he missed by a couple of yards. Even with his 6'3" height. Alexander unable to pick that one off, even though he left his feet.
Well, they would like to get the ball to Ray Alexander as much as possible, and Edmonton knows that, so they're going to put a lot of special coverage around him. They can't do any more than when they blitz and put man-to-man coverage in. But if they can keep the heat on Tedford and keep him off balance, then they'll feel like they're accomplishing little things to keep the ball from going to Alexander deep.
Tom Richards getting set to receive this punt from Glenn Harper. Not one of Harper's better punts. Bounces at the 45, rolls to the 40. Richards will scoop it up at the 35 and fight his way back to the 35-yard line, where Matt Dunnigan and the Eskimos offense will take over.
You know, coming into this city, it's an interesting thing because I was reading things in the newspaper about the fact that Dunnigan and Allen, which guy to start. You know, people voting for Dunnigan to start and Allen to start. And you have 2 excellent quarterbacks, and there's no way that you would have the decision of not starting Matt Dunnigan and using him. Didn't come in with Damon Allen. I think both of them complement each other.
First and 10, Edmonton from their own 40-yard line. They lead 24-10. 8:51 remaining to play in the third quarter. Swing pass to Skinner. Skinner 3 yards before he's forced out of bounds. Richie Holmes over there defending for the Stampeders. The word we get on Henry Williams of the Eskimos is that he has suffered rib and ankle injuries and will not be back into this game. We're still trying to get word on whether Rick Johnson will return to the game for the Calgary Stampeders. He was taken out with a shoulder injury. We'll stay abreast of those 2 injury situations for you. 2nd and 6, Eskimos. Halfback blitz. Calgary's coming. And the pressure was too much for Matt Dunnigan, looking for Howlett, but it falls incomplete.
Well, Hoy came on the blitz from the halfback position just to put a little more pressure on Matt Dunnigan. They want to do that, and they've got to put a little more heat on him. But the mistake you can make, though, is if you blitz in there after him and miss him, when he gets through that line of scrimmage, if he gets through there, then there's nobody to tackle him before he gets to the defensive backs who are 20 yards upfield. And once he gets one-on-one, he can beat defensive backs as well.
Tom Dixon enjoying a good game kicking for the Eskimos. He is 1 yard better than his season average in the punting department, and he's perfect, 3 for 3 in field goals. You can't ask more from your kicker than that. Taken on the dead run. Good return by Richie Hall out to the 50-yard line. So for a change, Jeff Tedford will have good field position when he comes onto the field to direct the Calgary offense.
Afternoon, Iverwin Stadium in Hamilton. Mike Kerrigan to Tony Champion, a 12-yard Ticat touchdown. However, J.C. Watts and the Argonauts proved to be too much. Watts from 25 yards here. The Argonauts win the first of the 2-game Total Point Eastern playoff, 31-17. We'll have game 2 next Sunday afternoon, 1:30 Eastern.
7:51 remaining to play in the third quarter here at Commonwealth Stadium. The Eskimos on top of Calgary 24-10. Just a reminder that should the Eskimos defeat Calgary, the Western Final will take place here at Commonwealth Stadium next weekend. The BC Lions will be the visitors, and I'm sure that Don Matthews would prefer to play in the comfort of BC Place Stadium, but in order for that to happen, the Calgary Stampeders would have to beat the Eskimos. So we know that Don Matthews is rooting for Calgary. First and 10, Calgary. Tedford, complete. Schaefer in on the tackle.
Brought down by Frank Mulcahy.
Tim Petrus on the receiving end of that pass from Tedford. And I think, Chuck, that's basically what they have to do. They have to forget the long stuff, just go with the short stuff. Take what the Edmonton defense will give you and do what Edmonton has been doing, and that is just pack away.
So right, Steve, and I think that they realize that they've got to come up with 6 or 7 yards on their first down play to create some problems for that defense on second down.
This time they hand off to Petrus. So Petrus gets the first down all by himself with a reception and a 3-yard run.
In that case, when they came up with 7 yards on first down, it puts the defense in a little bind as figuring out, well, is they going to pass or are they going to run for it? And that gives you a little better opportunity. They have 2 more downs to go for first down, whether you decide to run it or pass it and take the chance. And once you get over the 55, a lot of things happen and you get into 3-down territory.
They spot the ball at the 49-yard line of the Eskimos. 1st and 10, Calgary. Over the middle, it's complete. Greg Schaefer and Cliff Tooney combining to make the stop. And Larry Willis. The Calgary Stampeders certainly don't lack fan support. A lot of fans have made their way up from Calgary to Commonwealth Stadium this afternoon. And of course, the Calgary fans have done an outstanding job in supporting their football team all season long. They should be congratulated. 2nd and 2. They fake the pitch, give to Potter inside, and he has the first down.
Good play in that you fake that pitch and get that defensive line, and people think you're going wide and cut back in the inside against the grain. If they're angling one way or the other with that defensive line, you're able to pick up 2 or 3 yards on the cutback. Good for first down. They've got to establish themselves, keep this drive going, come up with some points.
If you were late joining us, Rick Johnson, the starting quarterback for the Calgary Stampeders, injured. Out with a shoulder injury in the first half. Jeff Tedford has come in as his replacement. Stampeders now 1st and 10, the ball at the 37. Tedford intending that for Tony Woodruff, but it's incomplete. And he was throwing into traffic that time.
Yeah, he threw that ball into a tight area. He's beginning to make one read and responding off of that. If it's there, you take it. But if it's not, go off into your secondary receivers. Find the backs out of the backfield and the people on the secondary route rather than try to force that ball in there in that situation.
5:10 remaining to play in the 3rd quarter. 2nd and 10, Calgary. The ball at the 37. Edmonton lead 24-10. The Eskimos were coming with a blitz. He gets the pass away to Emmanuel Tolbert. Tolbert down inside the 20-yard line. Good job, Teddy! Good effort there on the part of Tedford and Tolbert.
Good play by Tedford. You know, he hasn't got a whole lot of playing time this year, and all of a sudden he's getting into a tough game, and the pressure's coming at him. Danny Bass comes up the middle with a blitz, and Tedford's looking him right in the eye, knowing he's coming. But what he does know when that happens is that they're in man coverage, and if he can find a man down the field to throw to, he can pick up a lot of yards.
Tolbert saw that Tedford was in trouble and made an effort to come back towards the ball, which is terribly important on the part of the receiver when the quarterback is in difficulty. 1st and 10, Calgary, the ball at the 19. Fakes the pitch. It's a reverse. Tolbert down inside the 15. Gets down to about the 12-yard line.
Good change of pace to sort of give them something else to look for. Well, Tedford fakes the pitch to one guy and then pitches to the Tolbert coming back the other way. Sort of a reverse, but not exactly, except that you get a counter action. You fake one way and then pitch it back going the other way.
Well, we saw Matt Dunnigan run the option play. That's kind of high school, college. That little play, there was a little bit of razzle-dazzle. Reminds you of the kind of thing you might see in college football. 1st and 10. Make that 2nd and 3 now, Calgary. Tedford just puts it up. Looking for Alexander, he turned, he got a hand on it, but he couldn't pull it in.
Just threw it to the wrong side of him. Now, whether Alexander was going down to the field, should be looking to the outside or the inside. It was a mix-up on the pattern as far as turning. Tedford threw it to his inside when he was looking to the outside, and he had to turn around.
Mix-up on my part. I had Alexander, he wears 88. That was Larry Willis, he wears 89. Sometimes you get confused with those 88s and 89s.
Well, when I played in CFL, they didn't have those 88s and 89s. They were all 70 numbers. So all of a sudden now they've got all these receivers going to 88 numbers.
Well, they're going for it. 3rd down. They need 3 yards to keep the drive alive. The ball's at the 12. A draw, quarterback draw. He gets down inside the 10. He has to get to about the 8.5-yard line. The Eskimos are indicating that they will take the ball. Calgary simply running out of downs. 3 minutes and 2 seconds remaining to play in the third quarter here at Commonwealth Stadium. 24-10. The Eskimos on top.
Okay, you're going to see Tedford come out of here. He's going to run what we call a quarterback draw. And watch the reaction. Your ideal thing is to drop back here, let these linebackers drop back a little further, then run the draw. But Tedford runs back too short, and the linebackers have time to react back into the play.
He only needed 3 yards, and he did not get it. James Zachary coming up the big tackle for the Eskimos. First and 10, Edmonton. They get to Skinner. Skinner. Power running right up the middle. He gets to the 25-yard line.
Well, good effort by Skinner. As we pointed out before, those running backs can hurt you in both ways, both catching the ball. In this case, Chris Skinner ran the ball very well, right up the gut.
A pickup of 15 yards for Chris Skinner. Makes it first and 10, Edmonton, from their own 25. This time they give to Skinner's counterpart, and he pops it loose. That's Nelson Jones with a fumble. Calgary have recovered. A big break for the Calgary Stampeders.
Well, a big break for Calgary. They needed the ball, and they need to get some points on the board. It won't do any good here if they just get it and don't come up with any score. They've got to come up with a touchdown now or some points on the board to put a little more pressure on that Edmonton defense. You got to tuck that ball away when you're running, and a lot of times when they make that tackle, that contact, defensive linebackers and people are taught to put that head right in your gut, and that time they went on the helmet and he fumbled.
Big fumble recovery for Ron Hawkins and the Stampeders, who are now first and 10 from the Eskimos 32. Tedford with time. Sets up, looking for Manuel Tolbert. And Cliff Tony has come up with the Edmonton interception, but a flag is down. So 2 quick turnovers. One for Calgary, and then right back to the Edmonton Eskimos.
Ineligible receiver, Calgary number 19, decline.
Well, naturally, the Eskimos would decline the penalty on the turnover.
Well, it's unfortunate for Calgary because I think it's a good play and a good call by Tedford as far as come out, throw the ball on first down, and pick up something. This time, Tony just makes an outstanding effort of getting back into the play. The ball came up a little short on the throw, and he got back in there and picked it off for the interception.
I think you need to put a little bit more zip on the ball. He hung that one up there, and it allowed Tony enough time to get into position to pick it up. So now Matt Dunnigan and the Eskimo offense go to work. First and 10 from their own 1. Dunnigan working the option, trying to get out of the end zone. Does that, and then some. That man could run, folks. He gets up to the 12-yard line.
Good play by Dunnigan. I remember when we used to run one of those plays, and now it could have been a naked bootleg. In other words, he called the play to run the play up the middle and doesn't tell anybody he's going to keep it. And he fakes it right up the middle, and when he breaks the containment and gets to the outside, pick up enough yards for the first down.
Is this guy a competitor or what?
He's a good athlete, good abilities.
Oh. He wants that first down so bad he can taste it. First and 10 Eskimos. The ball is at the 13. Skinner on the handoff, and a loose ball, and again, Calgary have taken over on the fumble.
Well, all of a sudden, this game has turned into a lot of miscues on both sides, and nobody's been able to take advantage of it. If we'd have been able to take advantage of some of those miscues, we've had a whole lot of points on the board by now.
This has become a comedy of errors late in the third quarter. It could have something to do with the cold conditions out there, although at this stage in the game, I think I'd only be making excuses for it.
Well, it's difficult to hold the ball at times when your hands are cold, and the defensive backs and linebackers are trying to strip the ball. They're not just tackling the man, they're tackling the ball as well.
So Calgary take over, first and 10 at the Eskimos 15. Petros down inside the 10. Tune in to make the stop for the Eskimos.
Well, that time Calgary comes out there with those 5 receivers, and they'll send that one out of the backfield and run out there and try to put 5 receivers. At that time, they left Petros back there, the one running back, and he ran the ball.
Oh, it is so tense for Bob Vespasiani on the Calgary bench. You can see it in his eyes. He wants a touchdown badly here from the Stampeders. 2nd and 5. Tedford just lays it up. Tolbert is there. Touchdown, Calgary!
Good play. Same play as it was before when he caught the other touchdown. They know when you get down there and that close to the end zone, it forces the defense in man-to-man coverage. And this time, Tedford drops back. He reads the blitz is coming again. The linebacker's coming. He knows that Tolbert's got one-on-one coverage and throws it up for him.
Well, I mentioned he needed to put a little bit more zip on the ball last time. That time it was perfectly thrown. He just laid it up there, allowing Tolbert to run underneath it for the touchdown. Johnson is back into the game, but only to hold for the point after from J.T. Hay, which is good. So the Edmonton Eskimos margin is cut. It's 24-17, and the 4th quarter is still to come. Stay with us. You know, you look at the statistical story through 3 quarters of play, and you might get the impression that the Edmonton Eskimos are running away with this game. 319 yards compared to 129 for the Calgary Stampeders, but it's a lot closer than that. It's getting colder here at Commonwealth Stadium, but the action is heating up.
Well, Edmonton has been able to move the ball but not take advantage of some of that movement. And so now they've got to put some scores on the board. They're giving Calgary some momentum that they shouldn't have if you look at the statistics of the game.
J.T. Hay getting set to kick off following the Calgary touchdown. Taken at the 25. This is Skinner looking for running room. Does well to pick a few holes and does well to get to the 48-yard line. And another fumble. And again, Calgary have recovered. Ron Hopkins, the man of the moment there for Calgary.
Tough break. We talked about turnovers playing a big factor in the game, and here we go again. Yesterday there were some turnovers that were happening, and to that afternoon's game, there's several turnovers that are playing a key factor in the game.
And Chris Skinner is still down on the frozen turf here at Commonwealth Stadium as the Stampeders celebrate on the bench, and well, they might. They just refuse to quit, and really that has been the story of the Stampeder team all year long.
Well, it's full milk to the coaching team. If you take a look at the turnovers here, both of them have 5, but with their #1 quarterback out, Gary Allen out, they're in here fighting for every inch and everything they can pick up, and they're doing a good job at it.
If the Edmonton Eskimos do get through to the final, it will be a beat-up team that takes on Don Matthews and the BC Lions. Don was saying he hoped it would be a physical game. I know that he didn't want anybody to get seriously injured. He just wanted the Eskimos to know that they had been in a semi-final before they met the Lions in the final. But right now, Calgary had the ball. 1st and 10. Tedford. Complete to Potter. Potter has the 1st down. With Tony over there to force Potter out of bounds, but not before he got down to the 35-yard line.
Well, good call by Tedford. This time he drops back and does a play-action pass where he fakes like there's going to be a run and hits the back coming out of that backfield in the flat. And if those defensive backs are dropping off any kind of way at all, they're going to leave that flat open, and that time they were able to pick up the 1st down.
A pickup of 16 yards for Potter on that last play. Makes it 1st and 10 Calgary, and the ball has been spotted at the 35-yard line of the Eskimos. Tedford unable to get the pass away. Good pressure from the Edmonton Eskimos, Danny Kern.
Well, you got to have that heat coming up by your defensive lineman. That time Danny Bass came with a blitz, and he was picked up by Tim Petros, but that leaves those defensive linemen one-on-one, and he was able to get in there for the sack. When a team comes up with a big play and a turnover like that, you want to do something to stop their momentum, and they came with the blitz to try to stop that momentum and push them back.
The Eskimos now have 6 defensive backs on the field. 2nd and 20 Calgary. Tedford gives it to Willis. Willis looking for some running room outside. There is none to be had. The Eskimos defense rises to the occasion.
This time, both teams are doing something a little abnormal that they normally would do. Edmonton came out with 6 defensive backs, and Calgary came up with 5 offensive receivers. So both of them are not sticking to their fundamental game plan in certain situations.
A big play for the Eskimos defense, forcing Calgary into a punting situation. Glenn Harper will get this away from the midfield stripe. Richards, the lone punt returner, and the Eskimos were coming, and a good high spiral into the end zone. Richards takes it there and will concede the single point. So the Calgary Stampeders do not come away empty-handed. They manage to pick up a single point and now trail the Eskimos 24-18, 13:05 to play. I hope Ron Lancaster is listening to this one. I have figured out why there are so many turnovers in this game. It's a full moon, and you see the gravity of the moon is pulling the ball out of the arms of the receivers. And that man, many more turnovers, he's going to start baying at the moon, I'm sure. How's that for a theory?
Ronnie says he's got a lot of theories. Maybe he doesn't have all right, but he's got a lot of them.
Well, if he can have heavy air, light air, I can have the moon's gravity pulling the ball out of the ball carrier's hands. Okay, let's see what Matt Dunnigan and company can do now for this Eskimo offense. Pass over the middle. Chris Johnstone at the 45-yard line. Be very close to a first down. He had to cross the 45. Anthony Woodson in there to make the stop for Calgary.
Well, the ideal thing for Edmonton now to do is to establish a controlled game. Take 5 or 10 yards on a pass, pick up first downs, and move the ball closer where they can get some points on the board and use up time on the clock.
Gain of 11. First and 10 Eskimos from the 46. Calgary's coming. The screen works perfectly. Jones down outside the 50-yard line of Calgary.
You're going to see the linebackers come in here and come from the blitz, and when they leave that area, Wilson Jones comes right over this area, catches the screen, and is free to run upfield. And that's what you've got to do when you get that screen area, and as linebackers leave those areas in the zones where they normally would be to clear. Pick up that first down with the screen.
And we have an injured Calgary Stampeder down on the field. As the fans begin to chant here at Commonwealth Stadium, "Go Est, go." This program is copyright and is strictly for the use of our audience. Any reproduction, retransmission, or exhibition in whole or in part without the written consent of the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation is strictly prohibited.
Well, the crowd is really getting involved with the game now. They know that they're close to having the final come back there. Bernie Morrison probably got a little hit contact there, and he's an injured player. You know, the linebackers are awfully aggressive, and they're in every play, but sometimes they get hurt by somebody else. His own player that time rolled over the back of his leg and created the injury.
How many times have we seen that happen? First and 10 Eskimos. Nelson Jones, and he just turned on the brakes. You think he was playing hockey the way he got by that initial tackle.
Well, Milton Jones is fired up. I talked to him once before about his role as far as that Edmonton offensive backfield. And he says he works things out with he and Skinner. Hey, they just take what they get. We'll block for each other. We'll take the passes out of the backfield, and we'll run with it. He has the ability, as I said, he led the team in receptions with 55. For a running back, that's great.
Short yardage offense is in for the Eskimos. Need about 1.5 yards for the first down to keep the drive alive. Quarterback sneak, as you might expect from Matt Dunnigan. It has worked all afternoon against Calgary, and there's no reason to think that the Eskimos would use any other play in this situation.
Well, he's been very effective running that to his left side over Rod Knopp and Leo Blanchard, and when you have confidence in your offensive line in doing that, you just keep running it when you get those situations. Come up with the first downs, don't waste time with it, and then able to come up with some points. Keep the drive going.
First and 10 Eskimos. The ball is at the 40-yard line of the Stampeders as the official comes over to adjust the ball. And now referee Bud Ulrich is conferring with the two teams. 10:40 remaining to play in the fourth quarter. 24-18 Eskimos lead. Draw play. Nelson Jones right up the middle. And again, a good display of power running from Nelson Jones.
Well, you have two backs like Nelson Jones and Chris Skinner. Chris is not having a great night and making mistakes, so they make the flip-flop a little bit, and you start using Nelson Jones a lot more in the running and the pass receiving. And so that allows Nelson Jones' confidence to build up and doesn't put a lot of pressure on Skinner. And there's a great hole by that offensive line. When you get a hole like that to run through, you're very happy as a running back.
Did you see him put the second hand on the ball that time? He wasn't going to lose that one on a fumble. Dunnigan elects to keep it himself. Runs outside and gets the first down.
Well, you really get into the bind trying to simmer down a quarterback like Matt Dunnigan from a defensive standpoint. If your front four can't get to him, you want to put pressure by sending your linebackers. And if they don't get to him and he gets through the field, he's able to pick up a lot of yards. He's a great athlete.
It's first and 10 for the Eskimos, and they spot the ball at the 10-yard line. 9:51 to play. 24-18 Eskimos lead. Dunnigan had that tipped by Stu Laird, who was coming in with the rush for Calgary, and he got his hand up there, and it left Dunnigan's arm, and Laird was able to get a piece of it.
Well, Stu Laird was coming from the defensive end spot because he was out wide trying to stop that containment, and they were trying to put the blitz up the middle to force Dunnigan back in the pocket. And if they can have the containment outside by Laird and get that pressure up the middle, then they may be able to have the opportunity to sack him. They haven't been that fortunate yet.
Dunnigan and the Eskimos will do it again. Second and 10 from the 10. Back blitz. Dunnigan puts it up, looking for Richards. Incomplete. And the fans think there should have been an interference call on that one.
Well, it was close. They were involved with pretty heavy contact. They were in man coverage, and the footing was bad back there for the defensive back, and he tried to react back into the play and was close to getting an interference call.
So Jackie Parker, not willing to gamble, has sent in Tom Dixon to get some points on the board for the Eskimos. And up their lead by 3. Dixon has been kicking well, and certainly from this range it should be automatic. Dixon puts it through. So the Edmonton Eskimos now go on top of the Calgary Stampeders 27-18 with 8:59 remaining to play in the fourth quarter here at Commonwealth Stadium. Just a reminder of our next game on CBC television. It will be the second game of the two-game Total Point Eastern final between the Argos and the Ticats. Of course, the Argos were relatively easy winners in the opening game this afternoon. Chuck Ely and I will be there. Ronnie Lancaster will be there. Don Whitman will be there. We're all going to be there.
Yeah, it should be an exciting game. Two-game total points. You know, Hamilton is still in there as far as being able to come back, and that's what they're going to have to do.
Hamilton traditionally have always played well at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto. Let's hope they get a big crowd out for that one. The Argos get the support they deserve. Tom Dixon kicking off following his successful field goal. Is driven back once he crosses the 30-yard line.
Well, we talked about Edmonton establishing a drive in that last series and coming with points, and that's exactly what they did. They were able to keep the drive going and use time off that clock. Now Calgary, on the other hand, is now going to have to come back and score some points relatively quickly. They don't have to panic and get into break their game plan, but they have to march up the field and come up with some points.
Wasn't it about this point yesterday when Winnipeg came to life against the BC Lions, made a game out of it? Let's see what Calgary can do. They trail 27-18, 1st and 10. Tedford, lots of time, goes long, looking for his main man, Ray Alexander, and it falls incomplete. Well thrown ball there from Tedford, but good coverage on the part of Tony.
Good play in the coverage back there by the secondary people.
So after that long pass attempt, Calgary will get to do it again. 2nd and 10. Alexander comes wide to the right at the bottom of your screen. Willis is wide left. Pressure this time from the Eskimos, and Tedford does not get the time to put it up. Again, the Eskimos defense coming up with a big play when they have to.
A lot of times we talk about them playing zone, and this is a sack to the defensive secondary. Here you got guys dropping back deep here, and deep on the other side, while these guys play the short zone, 3-deep zone. As you watch it, as they drop back, they're just covering their area, and the 4 front people are putting the pressure on Tedford.
Back to the live action, a punting situation for Glenn Harper and the Stampeders. Good booming punt from Harper, his longest of the game. Taken at the 30. This is Richards. Brought down as he crosses the 50-yard line. So once again, Matt Dunnigan and the Eskimos offense will have good field position.
So often when you have those long punts like that one was, it stretches out the difference of where your people are covering from the defensive standpoint and leaves some large gaps for you to have a good return.
A 55-yard punt from Glenn Harper, a 21-yard return from Tom Richards, setting up a 1st and 10 situation for the Eskimos from their own 51. They lead 27-18, 7.5 minutes to play. Dunnigan fires a strike over the middle, complete to Rick House. House just shy of the 45-yard line.
That time, Matt Dunnigan just took a quick drop and drew what we call a slant pattern right into the middle. And what that does is 2 things. You get rid of the ball quick, but you allow your offensive linemen to get into a different blocking scheme where they can cut those defensive linemen to slow down that type of rush that those defensive linemen like to put on quarterbacks.
One quick correction on the time of that game next Sunday, the Eastern final, 1:30 Eastern time, not 1 o'clock, 1:30. A draw play to Milson Jones. Jones does well to get down to the 40.
Well, you notice how quietly that the Edmonton Eskimos, not demeaning-wise, have taken Chris Skinner's running portion of the game. If he's not having a good game, you're having a problem holding that ball, go to your other back. And they're relying more on Milson Jones to run some of those sprint draws that Chris Skinner was used to running more so.
They spot the ball at the 41, so it's a pickup of 5 yards. 6:13 play in the 4th quarter. The Eskimos on the move. Jones again. This time, after picking up the initial yard, he is met by about 5 white and red sweaters. Played by Harold Hallman, the Stampeders nominee for Rookie of the Year. In fact, the Western nominee for Shenley Rookie of the Year. There you see it, the CompuStats. A look at the difference. 402 net yards for the Eskimos as compared to 127 for the Calgary Stampeders. A huge difference.
Big difference, but the Calgary Stampeders get full marks for still being able to keep this game relatively close where they've been in a game where they can score and still come out and win it. They're going to have a tough task ahead of them to beating that Edmonton defense, but there's still a possibility with almost 6 minutes left to go in the game.
This is not a knock against anything that Tedford has done, but you have to wonder what would have happened had Rick Johnson and Gary Allen been healthy for this game. Tom Dixon angles that one into the corner, taken by Tolbert at the 1-yard line. And he is dropped short of the 20-yard line. 5:30 to play in the 4th quarter. The score, 27-18 in favor of the Eskimos. Game
stars will each receive a Royal Canadian Mint 1-ounce gold coin presented by Remington Products, makers of the 3M surgical clippers for hospitals and the microscreen rechargeable for you at home. Advanced shaving technology only from Remington.
And that man would certainly have to be considered for one of the Carling O'Keefe game stars. Matt Dunnigan has done an outstanding job at quarterback in the Eskimos this afternoon. 1st and 10, Calgary. Tedford on the roll. And that is complete to Alexander, but it was almost picked on.
Tedford's pass is complete to Alexander.
Well, good grab by Alexander. He just had to extend himself back to that pass pattern. They tried to flood the right side and roll Tedford to the right side where the pass was being thrown.
There's a flag on the play.
A flag down on the play. We'll have to see what the call is. Referee Bud Ulrich conferring with the other officials. They want to move a little further back from the players. Not trying to ignore them.
Well, better than discuss the decision that they make rather than make a rash one and be wrong. Well, I wonder if the discussion was about...
caught. First down.
Well, there goes my wonder.
That was the discussion. He was just asking the other officials whether the ball was caught or not. It was indeed caught. It was a gain of 18 yards, so it's 1st and 10, Calgary, from their own 36-yard line. Tedford gets it away just in time, complete to Willis. Willis comes up shy of the 50-yard line. Be close to the first down.
Gain of 13 yards.
A pickup of 13 yards for Larry Willis. First and 10, Calgary from their own 48. 4:14 to play. Tedford completes over the middle. So Tedford doing what he has to do to move the Calgary Stampeders down the field. That time, a pass to Potter.
Well, he's just completing short passes over the middle, and Evans is willing to give up a lot of that. Bend but don't break. Don't give up the long, quick, easy touchdowns. Let them use up some time on the clock and stiffen up as they get closer towards your own defending end zone.
The ball now in Edmonton territory at the 53-yard line. Potter, the ball carrier. And I'm not sure that he had the first down. Stuart Hill was there to meet him.
Well, Jeff Tedford is going to have to try now to get his people into a hurry-up type of concept. Not necessarily a hurry-up offense, but move back into the huddle, call the play quick, get up to the line of scrimmage, and go. Don't waste any time.
Well, the officials aren't wasting time either. I thought they might call for the chains on that one, but they don't. But there is a timeout on the field, so we'll take a timeout. 3:09 to play, 27-18 the score.
Let's go. Now's the time. You're feeling the heat. Moving to the beat. Get moving to the highlight. Miller Highlight. You're moving, so live it. It's your turn now, so take it. Get moving to the highlight. Miller Highlight. Get moving to the highlight.
Miller Highlight. Cold and clear, clean and simple.
Zenith's clean, cube-shaped styling gives you so much screen from side to side and corner to corner, it makes watching television a whole new ballgame. Zenith. Quality.
There you see the time remaining to play in this second half of the CFL's Western Division semi-final. The Edmonton Eskimos on top of the Calgary Stampeders 27-18. Again, should the Eskimos win, the final will be here next Sunday against the BC Lions. And the Fans are really whooping it up here at Commonwealth Stadium, and that's perhaps one of the better ways to stay warm.
That's a good idea.
You got to keep moving. It's a 1st and 10 situation for Calgary. The ball at the 51-yard line of the Eskimos. Tedford is sacked from behind by Tom Tuinet. He just reached out, grabbed him by the scruff of the neck, and pulled him down.
Well, I tell you, as a quarterback, that makes you mad. Those guys reach his big paws and just pulling his shirt down. You know, you want to have those tearaway jerseys that you used to have, so when that happens, they can just rip away. But those guys are so strong that they grab the little quarterback and just drag him to the ground.
6'4", 265 pounds, and he used all of it there to stop Tedford dead in his tracks. 2nd down. Over the middle, it's complete. That time it was Tolbert taking it at the 50-yard line.
Well, they're in a situation where they're going for it on 3rd down. That time they were able to pick up enough yards to get them into a situation where it's now 3rd and 10, and they've got to go for it now to get back in this game.
It's about a yard short of 10, but it's still a lot of yardage to come on the 3rd down. Flag goes down. The pass is deflected in the backfield. It could be a legal procedure on Calgary, but I'd be guessing. We'll wait and get the call from referee Bud Ulrich.
Well, Steve, I think you're right. The right tackle was moving.
Offside. Edmonton number 36.
Whoa. Well, they call it the other way. Offside against the Eskimos. That's why I don't referee, you see, Chuck. Oh, well, we try.
I was trying to make you right, Steve, too.
Yeah, you were.
Because you look right. You look right from up here.
Well, that moves the ball against the Eskimos, but it's still 3rd down for Calgary. However, this time they only need 4 yards for the 1st down. 2:30 remaining to play. 27-18 the score. Calgary need points in a hurry. Again, the ball is tipped, and for a few brief moments it was free in the air, but the officials rule it falls incomplete.
Well, the defense comes up with a big play there and turns the ball back over the offense, and now Matt Dunnigan goes back to work and trying to control that offense and use up the time on the clock.
And all he has to kill for that man is 2 minutes and 24 seconds, and Jackie Parker and the Eskimos will get to host the CFL's Western Final next Sunday here at Commonwealth Stadium against Don Matthews and the BC Lions. First and 10 now for the Eskimos. The ball at the 45-yard line. And they're going to keep it on the ground, as you might suspect. Nelson Jones, the ball carrier. Anthony Woodson, and to make the stop for Calgary.
Well, keep the ball on the ground, keep the clock rolling, and then they'll be in the finals next weekend.
And that's basically all they want. And I would imagine that Jackie Parker would like to try and keep everybody healthy now. He has lost some key personnel in this game.
Well, BC coming into this final next week, as well as Edmonton, have had some key people get banged up. And so you'll have to see how things are going to wash out.
Clock is running. Dunnigan. Well, and I don't think Jackie Parker wants to see Matt Dunnigan do that too often, although he does pick up the first down.
Well, Matt Dunnigan doesn't know how to slide or try to get it to slide. He wants to get everything he can get. And he knew how much he had to get for the first down, and he just bowled his way ahead to try to get that.
But he took a shot in the back that time, and he's favoring his arm. Dunnigan was favoring his right elbow, as was Harold Hallman, both holding their elbows. First and 10 Edmonton, 1:49 remaining to play. Chris Johnstone this time, and he stopped at the line of scrimmage. Eugene Beliveau sticking his helmet in there and bringing Johnstone down.
Good play by the defense. You want to try to get the ball back. Matt Dunnigan and the Edmonton offense are not in any kind of hurry to get anything done. look for Matt Dunnigan maybe to do something where he may roll out or pitch the ball wide just to use as much time on the clock as he possibly can.
And Dunnigan is still holding his right arm. He may have had it hit on the play before last. Now it would appear that Calgary is going to call a timeout.
Calgary's called a timeout to stop the clock and try to use as much as they can.
Today's telecast, the executive producer was John Spaulding. Produced by Larry Brown. Rick Brace was our director. And isolation director Brant Hayward. It takes a lot of people to put together a CFL telecast on CBC, and these are just some of the people that made it possible under very, very cold conditions. So congratulations to all our technicians and production people who worked so long and hard to make the pictures as good as they were this afternoon from Commonwealth Stadium. And to all the people back at CFL Control. .139 showing on the scoreboard clock here at Commonwealth Stadium. Dunnigan has returned to the huddle. It's 2nd and 9. The ball is at the 52-yard line. Jones still on his feet. What a job Jones did there in picking up 4 or 5 very, very difficult yards.
Well, he's hot right now, and anything you give him, he seems to be doing well with it. He's running an extra effort. He's holding on to that ball, and that's what they've got to have in the situation that they're in right now. Control the game, use up as much time on the clock. Don't give him an easy turnover with an interception or a fumble.
It'll be tough to pick the Connie O'Keefe game stars from this one. So many outstanding players on defense for both teams. Same on offense. Certainly you'd have to consider Milson Jones, Matt Dunnigan, Tom Tournay, Cliff Toney. Dixon getting set to punt. Seconds. Taken by Willis at the 10. He's got a lot of moves, but the Eskimos weren't buying it that time. A flag goes down as Willis fights his way up to the 12-yard line. Make that the 17-yard line.
Major foul on the face mask, 89, Edmonton.
Steve Howlett guilty of pulling the face mask of Willis. So that gives the Calgary Stampeders a little better field position. They trail 27-18, 1:03 to play as we look at that again.
Well, that's a no-no. You just don't stick your hand in there. Sometimes it's an accident that you get your hand caught up around the guy's helmet. You just get caught on that face mask and pull it down. Other times, some guys try to do anything they can to stop you, and they grab the face mask. Either way it goes, it's a penalty, and it's wrong.
You expect me to believe that an accident?
Yeah.
1st and 10, Calgary on their own 32. Tedford over the middle, in and out of the arms of Tolbert. Just couldn't hang on. But that may have been because he had 2 Edmonton Eskimos, including Danny Bass, draped all over.
Well, Edmonton's now content to drop back probably what we call a 4-deep zone and playing 4 people way back and trying to let them hit up in front. If they catch the ball in front of them, react back up on them and let the clock take care of the business of ending the game.
And the clock is doing a job for the Edmonton Eskimos, showing now only 58 seconds separating them from a berth in the Western Final here next Sunday at Commonwealth Stadium against Don Matthews and the BC Lions. The Edmonton Eskimos dominated the BC Lions over the course of the regular season, but you can't count out the BC Lions based on the job they have done over the last 4 or 5 games. Tedford passing complete over the middle. Ryan Potter tripped up at the 41-yard line. The rodeo has been in town here in Edmonton. That time it looked like they were pretending that Ryan Potter was a steer.
Well, they're just reacting to the ball now. It's just, like I said before, let them catch the ball in front. There's not a whole lot Tepper could do, because if you go deep, you got the ball traveling a long way, and those defensive secondary people are just back there 20 yards before the ball snap, waiting for the pass to come.
Tedford under some pressure. It's picked off. Danny Bass. And Bass tripped up at the 25-yard line. But did you see the way Danny Bass changed arms on the ball, just like a running back?
Well, you would think he had some kind of experience as a running back. I think Neil Lumsden taught him how to do that.
Danny Bass went from his right side to his left side with the ball. Let's see if we can pick it up.
Well, Tepper's in a bind now because they know that they're going to come after him. They know he's not going to do anything to pass, so they're standing back there in his own areas reading. And Danny Bass read his eyes and reacted to the ball and picked it up. And he switched arms, using the arm for the forearm shiver or the stiff arm, and tried to hit the defensive player who's trying to make the tackle now.
Bass will go back to the Edmonton bench and say, hey, that's the way you do it, offensive guys. And now Matt Dunnigan will just simply try and kill off the remaining seconds here at Commonwealth Stadium. 38 showing on the scoreboard clock now. And many of the fans are heading for the exits. And is that an omen of things to come? The fans think that the Eskimos have a shot at the Grey Cup this year.
Well, they've got a good big task in front of them next week at BC Lions. Even though they've dominated earlier in the season, BC Lions have come on with a strong effort these last several games that they've had against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
3 straight victories over the Blue Bombers, including yesterday's big win at BC Place Stadium in Vancouver. Of course, all of that setting up Grey Cup 86 to be held in Vancouver. The game itself on November the 29th. We will be there, of course. CBC Television, the place to be for Grey Cup coverage. All week long in Vancouver, there is something to do in connection with the Grey Cup. Festival 86, the organizers are doing just a super job in putting that together. Now the final seconds are running out here for the Calgary Stampeders. And the Eskimos have defeated Calgary 27-18 and advance to the Western Final here at Commonwealth Stadium when they host the BC Lions.
Well, it's extra effort by Matt Dunnigan and the Edmonton Eskimos as far as their offense, and their defense came up big. Unfortunately for Calgary, they lost their starting quarterback Johnson, and Gary Allen couldn't play.
So the final score, the Edmonton Eskimos 27, Calgary 18. The Eskimos go through to the Western Final against the Lions. Game star. Well, the 2 game stars are down on the field right now. Cliff Toney is the defensive game star from the Edmonton Eskimos, and Matt Dunnigan, the offensive game star. Cliff Toney has joined us. Cliff, congratulations on a big win for the Eskimos.
Thank you.
Cliff, you had a game where you Johnson came out of the game. Did that change your coverage or what you were doing in the secondary much?
No, we were trying to cover him tight so that we can give our defensive line time to get there and sack the quarterback.
Was your plan to put a lot of blitzing on the quarterback, whoever it was, and to play man coverage?
Yes, our plan was to put a lot of blitzing on the quarterback and make him get rid of the ball and play tight to play close coverage on the receivers so he can get the ball to him.
Cliff, what were the playing conditions like out there for the defense?
Well, it was slippery in spots where there's a little snow still on the ground there. And, you know, it's the type of footing that the guys were wearing was really helping.
Cliff, give me a quick thought on the Western Final against the BC Lions.
It's going to be a tough ball game.
I guess that was a quick thought. All right. Okay. The offensive game star, also from the Edmonton Eskimos, Matt Dunnigan. Matt, congratulations on another super game, both rushing and passing.
Oh, well, thank you very much, man. It was a physical ball game, and we knew it was going to be that way.
What did you plan on doing? Did you plan on doing as much running as you did during the game?
You know, I don't even know how much running I did. You know, we just do whatever it takes to get the job done. Unfortunately, it fell our way tonight.
Matt, you had over 100 yards rushing. Is that the kind of game that you planned for?
No, not really. You know, the only kind of game I planned for was come out here, try to execute as well as we could offensively, move the football, make first down after first down, because Calgary's got an explosive offense, and the more we could control the football, the better off we'd be.
Matt Dunnigan, thank you very much, and congratulations to you for being the offensive game star. Cliff Toney, the defensive game star for the Edmonton Eskimos here at Commonwealth Stadium this afternoon. A big victory for the Eskimos, moving them into the Western Final against the BC Lions next Sunday here at Commonwealth Stadium. Right now, let's go back to CFL Control and Brian Williams. Brian?
All right, thank you, Steve Armitage, and thank you, Chuck Ely. It is the British Columbia Lions and the Edmonton Eskimos meeting for the Western Championship next Sunday afternoon at the Commonwealth Stadium. The last time BC and Edmonton met in the Western Final was back in 1981, and the Edmonton Eskimos beat the BC Lions by a score of 22-16. All right, one other game played this afternoon. You see the final score, the first of a two-game total point series. It was played at Ivor Wynne Stadium in Hamilton. Let's have a look at some of the highlights. We pick it up in the first quarter. Mike Kerrigan, the starting quarterback for the Ticats. The touchdown pass, 25-yarder to Tony Champion. Hamilton led by a score of 7-0. The Steeltown fans were soon to be silenced by the outstanding play of Toronto quarterback J.C. Watts. Little fake to the play action there, and a 25-yard run for the touchdown by the former Ottawa Rough Rider. Here is the second touchdown run of the day by J.C. Watts, and the Argonauts win it by a score of 31-17, and that means they will take a 14-point lead into game number 2, which will be here in Toronto. That will be next Sunday afternoon, and we will have it live for you on CBC. By the way, the last time they met in a total point series was 1971 when Joe Theismann and the Argonauts beat Hamilton. You see, we will have Hamilton and Toronto.
14-point lead into the second game of their two-game total point East Division final against the Hamilton Tiger Cats. In the opener yesterday, the Argos beat the Ticats 31-17.
The Ticats take the early lead as Mike Kerrigan finds Tony Champion wide open in the end zone, a 13-yard touchdown to make it 7-0 Hamilton. But interceptions kill the Ticats as David Marshall picks this one off and runs it back to kill yet another Hamilton drive. And then late in the second quarter, J.C. Watts goes deep to Darrell Smith, who beats former Argo Paul Bennett for the 48-yard touchdown that ties it at 10. The Ticats come back, but again, it's the interception. This time, Darryl Moyer steps in front of it. One of two on the afternoon for Moyer as the Ticats turned it over 5 times. Moyer gets it to the 33, and one play later, J.C. Watts keeps it himself and goes 25 yards for the first of his 2 touchdowns on the afternoon. Watts also the leading rusher in the game with 66 yards. Lance Chomick adds 3 field goals. The Argos go on to win it 31-17.
Don't let anyone sell you a piece of a CFL franchise. In that playoff game in Hamilton yesterday, just 23,126 fans were in the stands. 24,064 were on hand in Edmonton as the Eskimos beat Calgary 27-18, and 40,381 were in the seats as the BC Lions downed Winnipeg 21-14. The Lions, of course, have the warmest weather in the country, and of course, they have the domed stadium. Even in the playoffs, the CFL franchises lose money.
Tomorrow night, the low is Sunday, November the 30th, right here on CBC. We're predicting now the finalists will be, you're going to find out who this weekend, Edmonton and Toronto. I never thought I'd ever say that, but we think it's going to be Edmonton and Toronto. Here's a look at Toronto Argonauts preparing for the weekend.
Remember when the Argonauts limped along without an offense? You don't have to sift through the sands of time or flip through the pages of history very far. 3 weeks will do it, back in the days when quarterbacks ran for their lives, full speed reverse. But now the story takes a different direction. The Argonauts are suddenly more of a threat to the opposition than they are to themselves. It's a welcome relief for Argonaut fans. It's vindication for Argonaut head coach Bob Obilovich.
You know, we went through kind of almost a couple seasons in one because we went through a period of transition with the quarterbacks. Then we had problems with our offensive line right from day one in training camp, and you know, we never did have the whole group of people in there that we wanted in there on a consistent basis, and now we're getting a little bit more continuity in our personnel offensively. The receiving corps has been together in the last couple of weeks, and that's made a big difference with the timing between the quarterbacks and receivers, and we're just getting to where we feel, you know, that we're starting to do things well as a team, and hopefully we can get better and be a better team, or as good as we'd like to be by the end of the season.
I guess it didn't work. What I was going to do was Edmonton and Toronto are the 2 teams that we're predicting will be in the finals. And I think the Grey Cup, is it a surprise anymore? Okay, will be won by Edmonton. I never thought I'd ever say that. Okay, and speaking of Edmonton, the other team that we think will be in the Grey Cup, personnel changes, key personnel changes are being made, and Doug Allen is going to be starting at wide receiver. Let's take a look at Doug Allen in preparation for the big game this weekend.
The Eskimo receiving corps became thin in a hurry last week when both Stephon Jones and Henry Williams were injured. Both players are doubtful for Sunday's Western Final, so the Eskimos will turn to Doug Allen, who's been on the sidelines for 2 months.
I was putting myself into game situation at practice, you know, so I'm kind of, you know, ready for it. And this week I'll work really hard and get myself ready for, you know, game situation. So I'll be all right.
Allen isn't the only member of his family playing in the CFL. He's not related to Eskimo quarterback Damon Allen, but his brother Gary is a running back for Calgary. The brothers didn't meet in last week's semifinal, but down the road.
It'd be nice to play against them, but, you know, we still got a couple years. He's got a couple years to play, and I got a couple to play, you know. We'll meet up one day. We'll meet.
Doug Allen has spent 2 months practicing, waiting to play. Now he gets his chance in the biggest game of the season so far.
I try not to look at it as a Western fan. I just try to go in there. I'm going to look at it as a game, you know. Just go in there and let my ability take over and just play 100% on every play. I'm really excited. I'm ready to play, you know. Been here 2 months and haven't got a chance to get in the game. I'm ready to get in now and, you know, catch the ball.
Out the annual awards last night. Mike Soles of McGill University won the Rookie of the Year award over University of Windsor running back Chris Porter. CIAU Player of the Year was Blake Marshall of the Western Mustangs.
CBC and CTV networks carry the game, but there's been serious concern next week's CBC part of the telecast would be threatened by labor problems. 2 CBC unions, the National Association of Broadcast Engineers and Technicians and the Canadian Union of Public Employees, are in legal positions to strike. A CBC spokesman says CTV was asked to take over the production aspects of the Grey Cup production because the corporation couldn't proceed with a strike threatening the show.
We asked the union for the assurance that there would be no disruption. Without that assurance, and in the interest of the Canadian football fans, and there are millions of them that watch it on television, we decided to ask CTV to handle the production.
A union spokesman says he is not surprised by the decision. He says the Canadian Football League probably pressured the CBC to make it, but he says contract talks prevented any guarantee on the game.
Of course, we were unable to give such a commitment in as much as we are now in a legal strike position. And we do have another negotiating session on the 26th. But frankly, we were unable to give any guarantee on any programming beyond that bargaining session.
If contract talks break down next week and the unions do go on strike, there is a definite possibility that the CBC's Grey Cup telecast could be threatened. And the reason why is that CTV technicians in Vancouver belong to the same union, and they could refuse to provide a feed to the CBC. Mal Tucci, CBC News, Toronto.
A big football weekend coming up. Best university football player in Canada is becoming a family affair. Running back Blake Marshall of the University of Western Ontario Mustangs received the award last night in Toronto.
This year's winner of the Heck Crichton Trophy as Outstanding Player was Western fullback Blake Marshall.
This is such a surprise. I got to thank my family, my parents. They've been so supportive all through the years. And my brother Greg. He's been great on and off the field. He even lent me these shoes tonight that he wore when he won it.
Marshall pounded his way over the 100-yard mark in every Western game this year. In doing so, he set a school single-season rushing mark of 986 yards on only 115 carries. That's 8.5 yards per carry. Marshall also shattered his brother's career rushing mark at Western, tallying 1,961 yards in just 3 seasons. But it's his slashing, bullish style which has impressed most, and his intensity is matched only by his sportsmanship. Look to Blake Marshall as a surefire CFL prospect. I'm Rob Sinclair for CBC Sports in Toronto.
Running back Chris Porter of the University of Windsor lost out in the Rookie of the Year balloting to Mike Soles of Guelph. And Gino Fracas, the coach of the Lancers, was presented with the Silver Tray for his contribution to college football. Gino was in the coaching ranks for 23 years. Well, all the bids are in, but the Canadian Football League has declared a moratorium on news concerning the league's television contract talks. No news is not necessarily good news in this case.
While the Argonauts and Tiger Cats are battling it out for the CFL East title on Sunday at Exhibition Stadium, here is what football fans in Southern Ontario will be watching on TV for the 7th consecutive year. In fact, the most important number for the CFL this year isn't the score of the Grey Cup game, but the price tag for the league's TV rights.
How important is this next contract, TV contract, to the health of the CFL?
Well, I think it's dramatically important.
What concerns Commissioner Mitchell is literally the future of the CFL as we know it. In 1983, Carling O'Keefe paid $33 million for the CFL TV rights over the next 3 years. While industry sources claim the entire league wasn't worth that much, each club has banked $1.2 million a year for the past 3 years. These same sources, however, say the free lunch is over for the CFL.
I think the major thing that's happened is the industry's profitability has probably been cut in about half in the last 3 years. In Carling O'Keefe's case specifically, it's probably been cut by about 2/3 in the last 2 years.
In fact, we have learned that the next contract will probably be for $10 to $12 million over 3 years, a drop of almost 2/3 from the last deal. For a team in trouble such as Montreal or Saskatchewan, that means almost $800,000 less next year, or 53,000 more seats at $15.
I can't believe this, that I would pick Edmonton and Toronto to be in the Grey Cup, and when it's all over, it's going to be Edmonton. Western Ontario taking on BC Thunderbirds, like Western. I really like Western.
Usual on other happenings. As a matter of fact, in that Vanier Cup game here in Toronto, now in the third quarter, the UBC Thunderbirds ranked #1, leading the #2 ranked Western Ontario Mustangs by a score of 17-8. And, of course, the conference finals in the Canadian Football League both go tomorrow afternoon. Later on in today's show, we'll have special reports from Toronto and Edmonton. Thunderbirds are national champions. They led 17-1, ended up beating the University of Western Ontario Mustangs by a score of 25-23. We'll take a look at the CFL finals later on this afternoon. Right now, they win the Vanier Cup 25-23 over the Western Ontario Mustangs. Stay with us.
Next Saturday on Sports Weekend, live from Vancouver, the Grey Cup Parade celebrates nearly 4 decades of festivity. Get the
a 14-point lead into their game with the Hamilton Ticats. It is game 2 of the Eastern Final. We will have it for you at 1:30 Eastern. Remember, Hamilton has made a habit of coming from behind against Toronto. The Western Final later in the day, that is Edmonton home to beat. Well, here's Don Martin at Exhibition Stadium. Don?
The Hamilton Tiger Cats may be down, but thanks to this year's playoff format, they are not yet out. They get a second chance, and even though they trail by 14 points going into the final game of the Eastern Championship, Ticats all-star offensive tackle Miles Gorell says they are still confident.
Because we're better than them. We know we can beat them. We made a lot of mistakes, and they only beat us by 14 points. If we make that many turnovers and they only beat us by 14 points, we can come back and make sure we put on a good show for the people that are going to come out and watch the game.
The Argos expect Hamilton will try to strike quickly through the air, even though that led to 5 interceptions last week. Daryl Moyer got 3 of those, but credits the defensive line.
It was evident last week Mike Kerrigan couldn't throw off his front foot, couldn't get his weight forward and throw. He always had a guy in his face.
You got to take some credit, because a lot of those plays, you were wide open.
Yeah, he did throw the ball right to me. There's no question. It's just a matter of catching it, and I was fortunate enough to catch it, get some return yards, get it in position, and the offense did their job this week, and they put the ball in the end zone. That's the key.
We want to try and forget about the circumstances that happened in last week's game as far as the points and all that sort of thing, and just hope that we can go out and play a good, solid football game and take what they give us, and by the same token, be aggressive on defense and not give them a whole lot.
So the Argos feel they can stop anything Hamilton might try to throw at them, even if the Ticats use a highly confidential game plan like the one we discovered posted on the bulletin board inside. Trailing by 14 points, everybody may have to go long. I'm Don Martin. That's the story here in Toronto. Now let's check in at the Western Final in Edmonton with Gord Miller.
Thank you, Don. Going long could be tough tomorrow here at Commonwealth Stadium because weather conditions will be less than ideal for the Western Final between the Eskimos and the BC Lions.
The main topic of conversation in Edmonton has been about the weather. This was the scene earlier in the week, and it didn't bother the Eskimos a bit.
I like it just fine because although the weather, Gord, is being somewhat inclement at the present time, we are in first place, finished the regular season in first place, won the first playoff game against Calgary, are 1 game away from going to the Grey Cup, so I think it's quite nice.
So after a week of practice under the dome, how did the Lions react when they got to chilly Edmonton? Their response was surprising.
I was hoping for a little bit more snow because we figured that'll slow them down a bit. I don't know, we're just going to go out and play good football. We're on a roll right now. We've been playing pretty good for the last 3 weeks.
The weather question has been answered. In a game like this, the teams will try to ignore it. Now the question is, who's the favorite?
I don't really know how this game is going to go. It really is tough to predict. I don't think anything that happened in the other 3 games makes any difference. It's a new 60 minutes, new field conditions, and a new carrot at the end of the string, and that's what we're waiting for.
Who has the advantage in Sunday's game? Well, it depends on who you talk to. Lion fans point to the fact that their team are the defending Grey Cup champions and that the Lions have been in the Western Final for 4 consecutive years. Eskimo fans point to the fact that their team won all 3 regular season meetings between the two teams and the fact that the game is here in Edmonton. The Eskimos have never lost a playoff game at Commonwealth Stadium. I'm Gord Miller in Edmonton. Now let's go back to Brian Williams in Toronto.
All right, Gord Miller, as we come back live, is back in the Western Final for the first time in 26 years. I can remember going to games back in the late 50s at the old Clark Stadium in Edmonton when the temperature was 25 below. Relating to that Eastern Final, Toronto with a 14-point lead. I also remember back to 1961 when I was at the old Civic Stadium in Hamilton when the Argonauts and Tobin Road had an 18-point lead. Bernie Filoni and the Ticats came back to advance to the Grey Cup.
Matchup to decide university's top prize in this country. The #1 ranked UBC Thunderbirds against Western Mustangs, ranked 2nd. Now, UBC came out storming. They led 17-1 at the half. The next 29 minutes belonged to Western as the Mustangs took the lead. But then, it all came down to the last minute of play. CBC's Don Martin reports.
A mild day, but slippery turf at Varsity Stadium. UBC leading 3-0 as Western comes out throwing, but Steve Samways is intercepted by Jordan Leaf. And Leaf turns it back upfield, a 30-yard return before he finally hits the snow. That eventually leads to UBC's first touchdown. 4 plays later, Jordan Gagné goes over the middle to slot back Rob Ross. Ross with a 39-yard touchdown that puts the Thunderbirds in front 10-0 first quarter. And late in the half, Gagné hits Terry Cochran of Vancouver in the end zone. A 5-yard touchdown that gives UBC a 17-1 lead. Early in the third quarter, Gagné, attempting to strike quickly to put the Mustangs away, is intercepted by a linebacker, Kyle Hall. That gives Western field position, and 6 plays later, Samways lofts it into the corner of the end zone. Andy Filipiuk makes the catch, and the Mustangs are back in it, trailing by 9. And on the first play of the fourth quarter, Blake Marshall, the Heck Creighton Trophy winner, takes it in from 4 yards out to give Western its first lead of the ball game, 22-18. But with the Mustang offense watching from the sideline mud, the Thunderbirds pull it out in the final minute. Backup quarterback Eric Putato, the game's MVP, comes off the bench to lead UBC downfield, scrambling for a first down inside the 5, and then with 8 seconds left on the clock, Putato hits Rob Ross for his 2nd touchdown of the day, and that is the ball game. UBC hands Western its 4th straight loss in the Vanier Cup, 25-23 the final. Don Martin, CBC Sports, Toronto.
Nearly 18,000 fans were said to be on hand for this afternoon's roller coaster ride at Varsity Stadium. And for many, the game is more than just football. It's a great excuse for a party. We threw our Rob Sinclair into that crazy throng, and he lived to tell about it.
How many times have you just got off the bus and felt like you're from another planet? Well, they came by the busload for this year's Vanier Cup at Varsity Stadium. While the Brew Crew muscled its way inside from the outside, the Western Mustangs were inside trying to knock the Thunder out of UBC's Birds. The Vanier Cup is more than a football game. It's an event, and the atmosphere is infectious. So good football or not, there's plenty to cheer about. And cheer they did. They cheered for the football teams. They cheered for their own teams.
Hey, Canada, how you doing?
They even cheered for cheer. But then again, who's to knock Canadian college football traditions? Heck, they even cheered for the English major who told the world what he got on his last paper. But it was the football game they had come to see, and it was football that they got. And when the crowd got tired of running, a couple of would-be quarterbacks started passing. Hey, wait a minute, isn't that a policeman they're hoisting? Maybe we should check with his partner. Before you knew it, everyone wanted to be Steve Samways. And naturally, it turned out to be one pass too many. Those who passed one ball too many got tossed themselves, and the band started to play their song. Down 17-1 at halftime, Western fans offered sideline advice, and one player felt more than willing to comply. When they came out for the second half, the Mustangs dug deep to make a game of it. For the moment, that put a smile on everyone's face. But win or lose, it's all's well that ends well. I'm Rob Sinclair for CBC Sports at the Vanier Cup.
Yes, can hardly wait till next year. Tomorrow in the CFL, the Grey Cup finalists will be decided. Here in the Eastern Final, the Hamilton Tiger Cats invade Exhibition Stadium to play the Argos. The Ticats face an uphill task, trailing by 14 points at the start after losing the first game of the two-game total point series 31-17. CBC's Don Martin has more.
The Hamilton Tiger Cats may be down, but thanks to this year's playoff format, they are not yet out. They get a second chance, and even though they trail by 14 points going into the final game of the Eastern Championship, Ticats all-star offensive tackle Miles Gorell says they are still confident.
Because we're better than them. We know we can beat them. We made a lot of mistakes, and they only beat us by 14 points. If we make that many turnovers and they only beat us by 14 points, we can come back and make sure we put on a good show for the people that are going to come out and watch the game.
The Argos expect Hamilton will try to strike quickly through the air, even though that led to 5 interceptions last week. Daryl Moyer got 3 of those, but credits the defensive line.
It was evident last week Mike Kerrigan couldn't throw off his front foot, couldn't get his weight forward and throw. He always had a guy in his face.
You got to take some credit because a lot of those plays you were wide open.
Yeah, he did throw the ball right to me. There's no question. It's just a matter of catching it, and I was fortunate enough to catch it, get some return yards, get it in position, and the offense did their job this week, and they put the ball in the end zone. That's the key.
We want to try and forget about the circumstances that happened in last week's game as far as the points and all that sort of thing, and just hope that we can go out and play a good, solid football game and take what they give us, and by the same token, be aggressive on defense and not give them a whole lot.
So the Argos feel they can stop anything Hamilton might try to throw at them, even if the Ticats use a highly confidential game plan like the one we discovered posted on the bulletin board inside. Trailing by 14 points, everybody may have to go long. Don Martin, CBC Sports, Toronto.
And at Commonwealth Stadium tomorrow, the Edmonton Eskimos play host to the BC Lions. The winner will represent the West in the Grey Cup November 30th. And history indicates things don't look good for BC. The Lions have lost 3 times to the Eskimos this season. None of the games even close, with the Lions managing just 1 offensive touchdown.
How much does home field mean to the Eskimos? Playing at Commonwealth Stadium is certainly an advantage, but once again, the stands will be about half full. A disappointment for management and players in Edmonton.
I just hope that we have more than 24,000 people out in the stands tomorrow. It was kind of disappointing last week. This is a Western Final, probably the biggest game the Eskimos have been in a long, long time. It's going to turn out to be a super football game, I know, and it's going to be very exciting for people to watch. So I just hope that there's more people in the stands.
The Western Final has produced 7 of the last 8 Grey Cup winners. To the players, this game is at least as important, if not more important, than the Grey Cup itself.
Getting out of the West Final is the biggest game, I feel like. You know, we've been in that twice in the last 3 years, and speaking from experience, the Western Final has always been the toughest.
Predictions have been hard to come by. The Eskimos are favored based on 3 wins over the Lions in the regular season. But these are the playoffs, with new field conditions and more at stake.
The difference between winning and losing is a very small, intangible thing that no one really knows what it is. We had it for a while. We lost it for 4 games. We seem to have gotten it back. Now the next 60 minutes will tell if we're going to keep it.
Here, it definitely is a plus having them in our own backyard and having our fans cheering for us. But they asked for colder weather, and I believe they got it this morning. So, you know, we're going to have to deal with it. Both us and the Lions, and it's going to be interesting how it turns out.
Gord Miller.